Welcome to the SBI Podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome, SBI Podcast listeners and video podcast viewers. My name is Greg Alexander, and I am the CEO of SBI, a sales and marketing company dedicated to helping you make your number. This is the weekly SBI Podcast, and its purpose is simple. We want to help you make your number by getting your peers to share with you how they make theirs. Today's guest is Laura Goldberg, and she is the Chief Marketing Officer at LegalZoom, the provider of quality, modern legal solutions for families and small businesses. Founded more than 10 years ago, the company has helped more than 2 million Americans with legal documents, and I'm a happy customer myself. They are not a law firm, but a self-help service. Or if you do need an attorney, they can help you locate the right one through the proper legal planning. Laura has been with the company for almost 2 years, and prior to that, had a fascinating career with stops at Napster as the Chief Operating Officer, and she was the General Manager of NFL Online. As we enter football season, I'm excited about that. And Laura is no dummy. She got her undergraduate degree from Carnegie Mellon University, and she is a bona fide Harvard MBA. So Laura, welcome to the SBI Podcast.
Thank you.
Okay, today I am going to ask Laura to help her peers, other CMOs, set their companies up for success by demonstrating how to plan marketing campaigns. Now, why have I chose this subject? Some of our listeners are not generating the results they want from their marketing campaigns. And some of the root causes behind these failed campaigns are things like poorly defined audiences, the wrong programs or activities are used, or in some cases, the offers presented are not as compelling as they could be. I asked Laura to be on the show because I've been watching her recent television campaign on CNBC and ESPN, and I have been very impressed and thought she would be the perfect person to discuss this subject. So we're going to use SBI's revenue growth methodology to guide our conversation, specifically pages 117 and 119. If you want to follow along at home, here's what it looks like. I'm holding it up for those that are viewing the video. You can get a copy of it by going to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016 report. So Laura, are you ready for my questions?
I am ready.
All right. Let's try to help the audience think through how to decide which type of campaigns to run. So for example, at least in the B2B space, there are things like awareness campaigns, competitive replacement campaigns. Maybe you want to run a cross-sell campaign or an upsell campaign, et cetera. So how can a marketer make the right choice?
It is all about defining your goals up front. So what is it that you are trying to do? Are you trying to acquire new customers? Are you trying to grow your average order value per customer, or your lifetime value of that customer? Are you trying to launch a new product, change what you're trying to do? I think, we try to think about, okay, what are we trying to achieve with this, with our marketing in general, and with these campaigns specifically. So when we think about TV, it is a little more weighted toward awareness, and I would say general value. And what I mean by that is the suite of products. When I look at our online marketing, whether that's SEM or display, that is much more targeted. That is about someone who is about to make a purchasing decision and trying to get them in for that exact transaction.
That's a great answer, and I'm going to tell the audience a little story. So my wife and I recently relocated back to Texas after living in Georgia for a while. And I got busy, and then things caught up to me, and my accountant reminded me that I needed to change my will. And there I am watching CNBC in the morning while I'm having a cup of coffee, and crying in my coffee about all the money I'm losing in the stock market. And later on that evening, I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys training camp highlights on ESPN, and you ran a spot in the morning on CNBC and a spot in the evening on ESPN, and it hit me. And I'm saying to myself, boy, it's almost as if Laura and LegalZoom knew that I just relocated. and I have a need. You certainly know you're a mid-40s male demographic.
Yes, we definitely have that demographic nailed of a certain income.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting because we talk a lot about trigger events, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I think I'll get some legal help today, right? There is always a trigger event, and there are the happy trigger events, a move, a new house, a baby, someone maybe leaving the house, whatever that is, which we try and find. It's definitely harder, obviously, through television, but easier through things like SEM and online and looking at partners. You know, we've looked at, hey, should we partner with wedding planners? Because after you plan your wedding, you're going to be married. You probably need to redo or do your will. So we're always looking for those triggers, and I love your trigger event.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you exactly what happened. So I saw the TV show, right? I don't go anywhere without my phone. So I get on my phone, go to your website, and bingo, there I am. And you're right, and the messaging and the call to action, if you will, on the phone was different than what I saw on TV. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because it certainly worked on me.
Excellent. I like it. And we are finding you where you're consuming your television, which is good.
Yeah. All right, my next question is unfair. It's multi-part, so bear with me, but I tried to take 5 questions and stick them into one to try to keep this podcast reasonably short. So here it is. So for each campaign, you have to determine your objectives, which you just spoke about, your budget, your media mix, your channels, and the schedule, and probably 25 other things, but those are the 5 that my clients tell me are the ones that stump them. So if you think about those 5 things, how do you at LegalZoom, determine those things and make these critical strategic decisions?
Well, we try to, so we have a lot of products, which also kind of complicates that, right? When you're selling one thing, then it's 5 factors on one product. So we have lots of products and 3 main product lines. So business products, personal products, so the wills that you were talking about, intellectual property. So we try and group those together, and then we think about what we're trying to do, generally acquire new customers. Sometimes it's increase our LTV or our average order value. And then we allocate our money against those 3 products and try to figure out what the best place is. So, for example, we do not advertise our trademark products much on TV. We found that trademarks are complicated, it's a long buying process, and that online is a much better channel for that kind of product. Other interesting is that our estate planning products we find work much better on the weekends. So when you are not sitting at your office, you are much more likely to take care of your family or your household chores, if you will. I don't want to call making a will a chore, but like a household chore. And during the week, we do much better with our business products. So we think about those, we look at the buying behaviors, we look at the decision making, and then we figure out the objective, we see how much money we have. We start high at media mix, right? So X is going to go into TV, Y is going to go online, and Z is going to go to other, so maybe direct mail or some other channels like that. And then we build the campaigns against them and try and schedule times where we know people are busy and go dark other places when we know we won't be getting much business. But it's hard, and it's a lot of juggling, because we always want to optimize, right? We want to figure out what that optimal customer acquisition cost is based on our projected lifetime value.
Yep. Now, you said something in your answer there that struck me, which is you start at media mix. for those marketers that are listening to this that might not be as advanced, particularly online as you are, given your background, tell everybody why you started Media Mix.
Well, so the profile of, I would say two reasons. One is the dollars are very different, right? The dollars that you spend and the ROIs that you look at for TV are very different than the ones online. Now, the other problem with TV is it's harder to measure. But we start with those big buckets because we know that our business products really get driven from television, and our personal products from a lesser extent. And then that actually enhances our online. So I'll get a better ROI on a start your business product like forming an LLC or a corporation when I have TV running. So the two work together. But it's also just for us an easier way, if you will, to budget.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Have you ever met Ted McLean? He's the CMO at Iron Mountain.
I have not.
Yeah, for some reason I thought you guys ran in each other's circles. I'll try to connect you to him. The reason why I'm bringing him up is I recently interviewed him for our magazine, the SBI magazine, an article titled The Iron Mountain Way, which was published in the Q2 edition. And you and Ted agree on much in listening to your answers. So I tell you what, I'm going to take a short break here and want the audience to understand how to get a copy of that article. I'm holding it up right now on the screen. So stick around. Here's how to get a copy of the SBI magazine, and we'll be right back.
Making your number is hard. Your problems are complex. Complex problems need complex solutions. Introducing the SBI Magazine. Read in-depth stories written by award-winning journalists about how your peers have overcome their problems to make the numbers. When you need more than a tweet, social post, or blog article, turn to the SBI Magazine. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com to subscribe.
Welcome back. My name is Greg Alexander, and I am the CEO of SBI, and my guest today is Laura Goldberg, the Chief Marketing Officer at LegalZoom. Today we are discussing how a CMO can set his or her company up for success by implementing proper campaign planning. And we're using SBI's revenue growth methodology to do this, so we stay focused and don't ramble. Specifically, pages 117 and 119, if you're following along. Before the break, Laura shared with us how she selects campaign type, sets goals, figures out budget, and thinks through the schedule of each of her campaigns. And we learned things about starting with Media Mix as an example. During this segment, we're going to hear from Laura about how to target an audience, develop content, and handle the creative. So Laura, how do you handle targeting?
So we have spent a lot of time, energy, and money thinking about who our customer was. We actually did, towards the middle of last year, a segmentation study to see what was the right characteristic of someone who is going to be open to a new and different way of purchasing a legal solution. And interestingly, we very much thought that we would end up with industry segmentation, right? People starting a retail shop, freelancers, construction, and it was not what we ended up at all. We ended up with some demographic information about age, household income, gender, but also a lot of psychographic, if you will, information about two segments. One that we call the do-it-yourselfer, so someone who's very comfortable going online, filling out information, talking to an attorney or a sales rep via phone or chat or email. And our other segment is called the online collaborator, who is someone who needs a little more hand-holding. It'll segue nicely into content, right? Who may want to read a little more about it, may want to have a longer conversation, may want to consult with an attorney first. And so we really developed a couple of customer profiles that we really go after. So they have the traditional, 35 to 55 or 60 age demo, household income, gender split. But we also look at things like going to start a business, likelihood to have children, comfort going online, things like that. And whether we're buying TV or online, we can target those characteristics as well as the traditional demographics.
I love the names, do-it-yourself or online collaborator. Those are great names. You could certainly hand those names to creative people and they can be off and running pretty quickly.
Yes.
It just dawned on me, the added complexity in your situation. You have both a consumer business and a B2B business, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm curious here, are the behavioral indicators, the buying behavior, significantly different? Or since your B2B focus, as I understand it anyways, is focused at the small business segment, is it fairly similar?
It's pretty similar. Most small businesses behave like consumers in that, there's a single decision maker. There's, whether it's a head of household or the starter of the business. So they behave pretty similarly. I will say, if we were solely a consumer business, maybe you wouldn't see us as much on CNBC, CNN, those types of places. So we definitely advertise in that business-minded channel. But it's really interesting. The behavior of a small business owner, particularly one who's starting, is very similar to that of a consumer because they, at the end of the day, are just people, right?
Yeah. Well, let me validate that. I mean, I'm a small business owner. We just have a few dozen people in our firm. And when I buy something, I'm spending my own money because I own the company. Right. And I totally behave like a consumer. There's no question about it. So interesting. All right, let's move to content creation. So we have our two targets, the do-it-yourselfer and the online collaborator. And you want to put content in front of them that gets them to take the desired action. So how do you create content?
We create content a number of ways, and we create a lot of content, right? So if you look, if you were to search for, LLC versus incorporation, or what's the difference between a last will and a living trust, you will see a lot of LegalZoom content come up. So we have attorneys in-house who write some of that content. We have a network of attorneys that contribute content, so this is written content to us. But a big focus going forward has been in video content. So really, instead of making someone read through what the difference between a Inc. and an LLC is, we have what we call explainer videos, which will, in a pretty simple way, in 1.5 to 2 minutes, explain what's the difference between a trademark, a copyright, and a patent. Who needs a last will and who needs a living trust? What are the differences of those things? And so we're really trying to move a little more to video, something that's a little more engaging, and then gets people to follow through. And then, the other content is talking to our attorneys or talking to our sales folks who really help our customers a tremendous amount in the decision-making process.
I'm curious. So we were just talking about your television campaign, and anybody that can buy space on CNBC or ESPN, particularly during the prime viewing hours, has a fairly substantial budget. And yet here we are talking about content, so you're investing heavily in that as well, to the point where you're actually hiring attorneys to write content for you to make it as relevant as possible. So how do you, juggle between paid and earned?
It is really hard. I think one of the hardest challenges facing marketers today is attribution, right? What drives what? Everything is so inextricably linked, and then people will, search on a question, go to their mobile phone, see an ad, log into their desktop. So we are, like everyone, struggling with that. We use some third-party software to try and help us in sophisticated econometric modeling to to tease that out. And then we try and, I would say the last thing that we're doing is sort of constructing customer journeys. So see an ad, read an article, buy a product, and different ways that we can kind of close that loop and track folks. But, you know, attribution is a huge challenge that we are constantly working on.
Yeah. When you figure that one out, let me know. I'll have you back on the show.
I will. Or if you talk to anyone who figures it out, let me know.
Yeah. All right. My last question during this segment is, let's talk about messaging and artwork. So when you develop those, because I just heard from you that you're not just giving that to an agency, you're developing content in-house. So
correct.
How, that capability, being a great copywriter or a great designer, that's a skill. So you're making this decision, buy versus build. Are you hiring those people in-house and doing it yourself? Are you outsourcing that to agencies? How do you handle messaging and art?
So it is a little bit of a mix. So we have a creative department. So most of our online content, our website, direct mail, things like that, we do in-house. And we have a very specific style guide. We have copy guidelines. We are trying very hard to speak legal in English, right? We're very much about no legalese, making things clear, making them consistent. When it comes to our television ads, we actually work directly with a production company right now, so we don't actually have an agency. That may change in the future, but right now, I have some folks in my marketing department who work very closely with a production company, and we work together to come up with concepts and to write the copy and go shoot the ads. So it is a lot of work. Yeah. I think, LegalZoom was really transitioning from being a document company to being a legal solutions company. And we felt like we really needed to put our thumb on the scale pretty heavily while we were in that transition. But now that we kind of have the key messaging points down, I think we will start to outsource a bit more so we can get more done.
Yeah, interesting. Well, my compliments to your team. When I saw your material, both online and on TV, I was going to ask you who's your agency and compliment them, but you're doing that in-house, so you have some really talented people, so please send along my compliments.
I will, thank you.
All right, we're going to take another quick break here. I want this audience who's listening to this particular episode to check out the podcast episode that we had Chris Majara on. He is the CMO of McGraw-Hill Education. Now, why do I want you to listen to this? Well, Chris is transforming a legacy print textbook business into a digital e-learning solutions. Laura is disrupting the legal profession, and he is disrupting the educational space. And I think there's lots of parallels there. So this audience today that was drawn to this might find it useful. So let's take a short break and direct everyone to subscribe to the SBI podcast. We'll be right back.
Do you have too many things to do and not enough time to do them? Is finding time to learn best practices almost impossible? The SBI podcast is your solution. Turn time spent exercising, commuting, and traveling into productive learning time with a subscription to the SBI podcast. SBI podcast listeners get unique insight into real-world sales and marketing issues through interviews with your industry peers every week. Find us on iTunes by searching for Sales Benchmark Index Podcast and subscribe today.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Greg Alexander, and I am the CEO of SBI, and my guest today is Laura Goldberg, the CMO of LegalZoom. Today, we are discussing how a CMO can set his or her company up for success by demonstrating how to plan marketing campaigns. We are using SBI's revenue growth methodology to do it, specifically pages 117 to 119. If you want to follow along, grab a hold of the report. You can do that at salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016 report. Before the break, Laura and I were discussing targeting, content creation, and creative. During this segment, Laura's going to share with us Her view is about channel selection, which we've talked a little bit about, but I want to dive into that a little more. Key performance indicators at the campaign level, calls to action, and testing. So Laura, there is an explosion of channels. How do you select which content or which message to push through which channel?
So I think we try and determine what is going to be most effective. So on television, unless you're, looking at direct response, a big call to action, we don't see as quite as effective. When I look at keywords, purchasing keywords, or retargeting. So retargeting is when you come to our site, maybe you leave, and then we serve display ads that follow up. Then we look at very specific call to actions, right? Finish your order, get an LLC now. And so it is very much matching what the medium is good for. And in general, I think different mediums are good for different things, and then each company will have nuances. So, we've found that SEM has been incredibly effective for us. Our product is a research-heavy product, and so keywords with strong call to actions have been very effective. When you get further up, what we might call prospecting, so basic online, then maybe not such a strong call to action, maybe something more like learn more or find out how, right, which gets you to our site, gets you to learn more in the funnel, but is maybe not so strong in terms of do it right now. So we try and match the action to the channel, and then we have ROI goals against each channel and what we're trying to get. So television, we may measure direct traffic based on that. For SEM, we're measuring transactions, et cetera. So it's about matching the metric and the action to the channel.
Yeah. So the message for the audience is understand the different media types and what they're really good at. So for example, Laura mentioned earlier that television was great for awareness. So the offers that you put on TV need to be awareness-based, whereas if you're going to do something online like explainer videos, you might have a more direct response like CTA. Okay, let me go to my next question on this. Key performance indicators at the campaign level. I see some clients tracking way too many things. I see some clients not tracking enough things. It seems like everyone's in search of the holy grail here, which we talked about, which is attribution. Is there a way to simplify key performance indicators at the campaign level?
Well, I think it's imperative to, at least at a high level, have 2 or 3 goals that are the holy grail for your company, right? And for LegalZoom, we look at acquisition costs, lifetime value, and our NPS score. Those are our holy grail. I think as we look at each campaign, so for very heavy call to action, retargeting, SEM, we target a net margin and try and hit it. Now, we may alter that net margin based on bigger goals, but that's what we try and do. And on television, we look at traffic and then conversion of that traffic. So, it's hard because everything interplays together, right? If I have a strong television campaign, then my SEM net margin is going to be better.
Yeah.
So I think you can set those KPIs, but then you just have to be mindful about how your different levers affect each other.
Yep. Now, your solutions that you sell to your customer, are they point-based? So I buy this and then maybe I don't buy anything else? Or is it subscription-based? Tell me a little bit about what you're offering.
Yep. So we are really moving into subscription, lifetime value, and really building relationships with our customers, because you need, as a small business owner, and even as the head of household or as a person in your family, you're going to need legal services more than once in your life. And so while we really started as this online document company, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've added pretty strongly our attorney network. So we encourage everyone to sign up for one of our legal plans, which gives you unlimited access to an attorney on new legal matters. It is a very affordable price, and if you're a small business owner, you can call about your formation, you can call about a lease if you're going to lease some space, you can call about a contract, you can call about employment issues, and we try and take care of that. So we are really moving into the legal solution space where we feel like we can provide a quality product at a very reasonable price.
Okay. I want to talk to you now about calls to action. Obviously this has been very important for a long time, so there's nothing new here. I think everyone understands how critical it is. However, with the movement towards programmatic and machine placement, it seems like the intensity on testing different calls to action has gone up dramatically. Everybody wants to argue, for example, does the word free, increase response rates or decrease response rates, et cetera. Do you have any secret sauce on calls to action?
No, unfortunately. I wish I did. And I think it's why testing has exploded, which is that every call to action or every channel does not have the same call to action, right? Or that isn't going to be effective. And, I think you can test now the shape of the button, the color of the button, the call to action. And so we try and optimize all of those things. I do think, very targeted channels like an SEM channel, a much firmer call to action, buy now, start now, work better than something that may be further up the funnel, which is, learn more, find out more. So we try and match the call to action to the intent.
Okay. Speaking of testing, I interviewed Elisa Fink, who's the CMO of Tableau, on this show. And I asked her the question about testing, and boy, she tested everything. I mean, it was incredible what they were doing. And I was a little overwhelmed myself. With all of the testing capability, is it worth it? Can we paralyze ourselves with too much testing? I mean, what's your general philosophy on testing?
We test a lot. We try and test. We always say test our way into things. So what we try and do is test. We'll test on one product. We'll test on one funnel. And if it's an overwhelming success, we will generally roll out, right? We won't wait and test it on every single permutation of every single sales funnel that we have. But, I mean, I think that you can test everything, and you have to pick your battles, right? Where are you really going to where can you cause damage? And where can you really move the needle? Because there's only, so many hours in the day, there are only so many resources, and you can only split your traffic so many ways, right? So I think you have to pick what's really going to move the needle. But we are very aggressive testers here, whether it's, images, copy. We test copy a lot because that's super important. And then different sales funnels. So it's incredibly important.
Yeah, okay. So I think the moral of the story here is if you're not testing, start testing. And believe it or not, there's folks that don't test enough. But, there is a point of diminishing returns. I mean, if you see something that's a blockbuster hit, no reason to test it further, roll it out. So good advice there. All right, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, Laura and I will discuss what to do next if you are a CMO looking to improve the results of your marketing campaigns. If you liked listening to Laura and want access to more peer-driven best practices, I think you should check out our blog. So here's some information about SBI's blog.
Each day, you receive hundreds of emails, tons of text messages, countless telephone calls, and sit in too many meetings. How do you find ideas to make the number with all this noise? The SBI blog filters all this nonsense for you and presents only first-rate ideas to make the number. Simplify your life. Subscribe to one blog and read the best content. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back, everybody. Laura and I are going to package all of our knowledge up now in a little bow for you, and we're going to try to summarize, if you will, everything that we've discussed so far in our show. So Laura, if I had you on the set right now and stood you in front of the camera, and I said, speak directly to the audience, what are the 1 to 3 things you would advise them to do immediately following this show specific to improving campaign results?
I would say, 1, know your audience. Who are you selling to? 2 is, what are the selling points that are really going to make them get off the sofa or their desk chair or whatever and go buy your products? What are those selling points? And then lastly is to really match the action you want to the channel that you're going to spend your dollars.
Yep. Okay, great advice. So let's follow Laura's advice. You should have the equivalent of do-it-yourself and online collaborator. You should know the different media mix and what offers to put through each. You should understand your unique selling proposition and your different sales funnels. So these are all great pieces of advice coming from an advanced marketer. Let me offer you my advice, if I may. Marketing budgets are under pressure. I mean, we see this across the 19 industries that we do work in. CEOs, who are the people who authorize the discretionary marketing spend, they want to see results. And if the results are good, more budget comes your way. If results are poor, budget gets taken away. And the key input into campaign success is proper campaign planning. This is why you care about today's topic, campaign planning. And as you can see and hear from Laura, there's a lot to it. I mean, it's a lot more scientific today than it ever has been. So take the time to plan your campaigns correctly. Don't just hit the send button because you're eager to have a lot of activity. We're focused on results. Results over activities, focus on outcomes. If you want to make sure you get this right, get a copy of this year's research report titled How to Make Your Number in 2016. And you can get that at salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016 report. If you feel you may not have an effective campaign planning process and you want one, you can have one of our experts come to your office and put you through a workshop, and that it will detail how to do this, at least our point of view on it, which is informed from experts like Laura. If you want to sign up for this workshop, go to the same URL, salesbenchmarkindex.com. Instead, this time it's /2016 workshop, and just request someone to come out and see you. Laura, you were an incredible guest, really. I'm not just saying that to make you feel good and properly thank you for being on the show. You really were. I mean, I took 3 pages of notes here, it seems like, and I learned a lot. So you made a big contribution to our audience, and I want to, on their behalf, personally thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was super fun.
Okay, I would also like to thank you, our audience, for tuning in. This show has become very popular. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if this episode gets downloaded over 30,000 times. And with this popularity comes great guests like Laura. Laura wants to come on shows to get the word out there, and if we have a good audience, which we do, and it's growing thanks to you, then she's going to want to be on the show. So I really want to thank you for tuning in and for being a loyal watcher and listener to the SBI podcast. And until we meet again, I want to wish you much success as you try to make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.